any place in your business where you can pay somebody less than $25 to do a job, you should do that, because what that's going to do is buy you back more time to do things like marketing.
If a gym has 150 members, they should just stop, right? That's all they should just close the doors and never sign up anybody else, right?
Gym owners work extremely hard and they're willing to martyr themselves for the cause. And, that's, while that appears admirable on the surface, long term, that's going to create a lot of problems for you and your family.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. I'm your host, John Franklin, joined with my other host wearing a beautiful outfit today, Mateo Lopez. And as always, we have a guest. We have the best guest, some would say. Christmas is coming early, gym owners, because the Two Brain Business State of the Industry for 2023 is out now. You can go get your copy at twobrainbusiness.com/data. If you're watching the show on YouTube, we're going to be showing pieces all along, but this is a visual show. This is interactive, guys. You want to see this thing. It is meaty. It's got all the information you need to run your gym in a data-driven way. And to help us get through this mammoth 66-page guide, chock full of information, we have my dad, Chris Cooper.
Sometimes I feel like your dad.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this stuff. It really does feel like it's a gift that we made ourselves with love and care, and we're giving it to like 12,000 people.
So for the people who don't know what Two Brain Business is and don't understand the state of the industry and why it's an important document, can you give us like a 2-minute primer on that?
Yeah, Two Brain Business is the largest mentorship practice in the world for gym owners. And we collect data every year and we teach best practices based on that data. And we publish a lot of stuff for free, including this gift, which costs us probably $250,000 to put together. But we publish stuff for free every single day. Like, that's just our ethos. And we provide mentorship for people who want to get their results faster. And that's really what the company does. We're a free media company that sells speed.
But why, $250,000? That gets you a lot of chainsaws in Canada. So, why not just pocket it? Like, why put this together?
Well, I mean, the company really exists to help gym owners. So, we sell things that make money so that we can invest in things like this, like the state of the industry. This is the data and proof that I wish that I had when my gym was struggling years ago. I went out looking for, okay, what do I need? And I would go on CrossFit forums, I would go on Facebook forums, and everybody would say, you need marketing. So I thought I needed marketing. And then luckily I found a mentor who said, marketing's not going to work for you because your business sucks. You don't understand your business. You've got a filthy floor. Your classes are inconsistent. You're angry and burned out. You're depressed. You're losing money. Like, marketing is not going to solve that problem. And being a fairly skeptical person, I was also very, I didn't really believe a lot of the stuff that I was hearing online from people. And it turned out that was the right move. The problem was that, like, real knowledge and the real pearls of wisdom were also out there. And so I didn't know how to separate the truth from the hype. And so I started saying, like, who is actually doing well? Who is actually making money? Who is actually 20 years in and they're going to be able to retire from this? Who actually got clients and is keeping them, And I needed a filtering mechanism to figure that out. And so eventually when we started making money, I said, we're going to just build this because it's what I needed and wanted as a gym owner. So, data is like truth. I want to give people the truth and then let them build their own gyms from there without the handcuffs of like a franchise model or, that's it.
So this year we sourced data from a little over 13,000 gyms. The contributors are Kilo, great company. I don't know if you haven't heard of them, check it out. Use kilo.com. Push Press, Wodify, and Team Up, they all provided quantitative data straight from their gym management system. So we know a lot of this it's reported directly from them. And then on top of that, we have the Two Brain data. So Two Brain works with around 1,000 gyms on a monthly basis and collects data in our proprietary dashboard. And then finally, we have a gym owner survey. So Two Brain has one of the largest email lists in the space, and we just spam it for a week, telling people fill out the survey, fill out the survey, fill out the survey. And that provides some of these qualitative metrics so you know where all of this is coming from. As you can see here, it skews CrossFit. But we have been seeing upticks every single year in personal training gyms, strength and conditioning gyms, and non-binary gyms that identify as other. So, Chris, why do we skew so heavily to CrossFit in the data, do you think?
Well, if you add up CrossFit and non-CrossFit, it's about 50-50. But you're right. Like, there is definitely a trend toward CrossFit. And that's because I'm a CrossFit affiliate. I have been since like 2008. And I started on the CrossFit affiliate board trying to find answers. I had a personal training gym that was actually doing okay. And when I opened my first CrossFit affiliate, I just believed a lot of the stuff that people were saying on the CrossFit message boards, and that nearly bankrupted me, like nearly took down both gyms. And so when I went looking for the source of truth, one of the audiences that I had to find it was CrossFit. And so, like 2018, I told CrossFit HQ over breakfast, the best thing you can do for affiliates was to collect this data and just publish it. And they said, great idea. We're never going to do it. And so I said, well, I've got the money and the audience. I'm going to do it. And so we've been doing it ever since then.
What percentage of the respondents from the stuff you like the survey are Two Brain clients versus just people on the list?
So there's two different parts, right? There's the data set that is anonymous, and that comes from like Wodify, Push Press, Kilo, Team Up. So we have your actual numbers, not just your best guess. Then we have the survey that we send out to people. And that's mostly qualitative questions like, how do you feel about XYZ? How are you burned out? And so the data set is largely non-Two Brain. We have 931 gyms in Two Brain as of this morning, and out of 13,000, that's a small percentage. The survey, how are you feeling? That is like Two Brain is strongly represented in that survey. Probably like half to 2/3 of the respondents in that survey are already in Two Brain. So it's a neat perspective that you get, because you get like, here are the hard facts, and then here's what the best minds, the leaders in the industry, are thinking and feeling right now.
So we talked a lot about some qualitative data. I know if you look anywhere on the internet, there's a lot of banter about CrossFit HQ, much of it negative. There was recently a large video put out by Andrew Hiller where he was comparing a podcast you did with Greg Glassman in 2018 to a podcast Greg Glassman recently did with Mark Bell, I believe, this year. But, if you look past all the doom and gloom, you look at what our people are reporting. Hold on there. Almost 90% of gym owners feel confident about the future of the brand. What are your current thoughts on HQ, the approval rating, and the general sentiment in the community? Like, what are you seeing?
Well, the general sentiment in the community is kind of like this awareness, right? This awakening of, oh, wait, CrossFit is not what CrossFit once was. CrossFit is now owned by Berkshire Partners, an investment fund, and they are going to do what an investment fund does. That's different from, here's a company that's owned by the founder who really cares more about the science than anything else. And, he cares about the methodology and the science. This, an investment fund is going to be more concerned about value capture. Like, how do you grow your audience and how do you increase the value or the money that you make from that audience? And so they're going to make moves that optimize for value capture. And then in 2 to 3 years, in most cases, they would sell to somebody else and move on to the next project. And so when you realize that, okay, this is a different company now, then you're faced with kind of this existential crisis of like, well, do I really want to be part of this company? The good news is that even though the company and the company's goals are different now, the community remains really super strong. And I saw that down in Austin at the Rogue Invitational this week. And so the key, the real thing that affiliate owners should be focused on right now is like, can I maintain the freedom of choice? Do I have to do what they're telling me to do? Do I have to accept like their marketing, their software, their mentorship, their t-shirts? Or do I maintain the optionality of I'm going to use whoever I want for t-shirts? I'm going to find a mentor that I choose. I'm going to use whatever software package I like the best. And I think when those options start to go away, that's when you're really going to see the sentiment swing back toward the negative. But for right now, HQ, I think, and Don and the staff has done a really good job of bolstering the perception of, keeping the community together and kind of bringing everybody back together, even if there really isn't like a shared, clear objective yet.
What are the actions like they've like taken? Like, what are the things that gym owners or affiliate owners are telling you? Like, oh, this is new that's been helpful, or this is a thing that I didn't have before that I'm enjoying now.
There's a couple of things. And the value of those things really depends where you are as an affiliate. So if you've never had a mentor, then having affiliate roundtables is really valuable because it's the first time you've ever had perspective from somebody else, or even just a connection to your peers as affiliate owners, right? That's good. Anybody that's been to these knows, like, you really have to be cautious about whose advice you take because they're not filtered and you never know. It's just like Facebook, but in person. But that is valuable. If you have no real conversations with any other affiliate owners, this is a lot better than that. Another thing now is they've upgraded the CrossFit website. So when somebody is searching for like CrossFit in Sault Ste. Marie, they're going to go to CrossFit.com and find a link to my gym, right? Hopefully. And so for a lot of gyms, this is resulting in some decent leads. People who are on the CrossFit.com site, they're going to find your gym. But again, like all of these, there's an upside and a downside. So now I'm kind of competing against CrossFit.com on SEO. So if somebody Googles best gym in Sault Ste. Marie, are they going to go to the CrossFit.com site, or are they going to come straight to my site? And this is what I mean. Like it's up to the affiliate owner on what they're willing to trade in autonomy for. Okay, you help me with that instead. And I think a lot of affiliate owners right now are willing to trade a little bit of that autonomy to have more help from HQ.
So I'll show you, Teo. I don't know how much time you spend on the CrossFit map, but this is definitely something that has been brought up in the growth group, which is Two Brains client group, and our public Facebook group, gymownersunited.com. So before, the CrossFit map was just literally a map that you could go to, and it showed the affiliates around you, and it would link out directly to your website if you provided the actual website. Now you can go and look for like a gym near me, and then the CrossFits will show up, and then you find one, you contact it, and instead of going to the page, it tells you their credentials, how long they've been affiliated, and there's a contact form. And so if I fill this out, the owner of CrossFit Sea Dog will get an email saying, hey, someone found your gym from CrossFit.com. So you know that lead is coming from the actual CrossFit map. We'll talk about this later, but our data shows that the average gym is only getting, the average coaching gym is only getting about 25 leads a month. So if CrossFit can provide 2 leads from this service and quantify it, that's like a 10% boost. So, there could be some real value. We talked about the roundtables, the meetups. So yeah, there's definitely some progress going on. I remember you went to the Rogue Invitational recently. You sent me over to the games, and I remember getting back and telling you like, hey, Chris, like, feels like, if you look at what the data says, a quarter of the people who left do not feel confident about the brand. So it looks like you have this like washout where like all the people who are unhappy with the direction are already gone.
That's true too.
And the people around feel pretty good. If they made it this far, it seems like a lot of it's like up only. And so it did feel like there was a cohesive culture. There wasn't a lot of negative banter around HQ, at least that I heard of in my circles. And genuinely, everyone that I interacted with on the HQ staff seemed like genuinely interested in helping affiliates. Like the affiliate lounge was full of speakers all day. There's a lot of people, affiliates actually sitting down looking to learn stuff. It was just... it was cool and honestly a lot better than I expected. So now let's turn our attention away from the actual CrossFit realm, since it's not a CrossFit only podcast. Let's talk about money, because this is a show.
It's a money only podcast. Yeah.
This is a money podcast. And so data here shows that the average gym owner is bringing home around, here you go, $3,900 in net owner benefit. What is net owner benefit, and what does this mean? Is this good? Is this bad?
It's basically the value that the gym pays the owner. So it might pay you a salary. It might pay you profits like dividends. Could be a combination of the two. If you're in a highly taxed area like I am, you might prefer to take, money from your gym in other ways. For example, like maybe the gym buys my truck, right? And so when we track net owner benefit, we want to track the total of all those things that the gym is either paying you or paying for you, and record that. We don't file this with the IRS or the CRA. This is just kind of like the real books.
And how do you feel about that number?
It's too low. It's half what it should be, but it's getting better.
I feel like a lot of gym owners struggle with paying staff, right? There's this, you talk to every gym owner, they want to provide a good career for staff members. And I know a lot of times staff think like, oh, this guy counting the members, like, oh, this business is doing $13,000 in revenue. Like, this guy must be rich. Like, this guy's killing it. And I'm here working for $20-$30 a class. Like, and there's a lot of animosity there. I mean, do you think it's something where like how should someone who's making $3,900 a month think about paying staff and providing a career, or is that just like, you're not at that point yet?
Yeah. I mean, really what you should be focused on right there is, being a successful owner operator. So you're still going to be coaching classes. If you're making $40,000 a year, it really doesn't make sense for you to be, getting somebody else to commit to you full time, because you haven't even proved that the business can pay you full time, let alone somebody else. So you are the first test of your business model. And if the business can pay you well, then it can probably pay somebody else well too. But if you're constantly going up and down and your paycheck is different every week, then really, wait and stabilize your model and then hire somebody else when you can consistently pay them.
How do you think about it, Teo? I mean, you were an oppressed coach and went on to become an evil overlord owner. How do you think about managing owner pay and staff pay?
I think what Chris just said was actually pretty interesting, and I kind of tend to agree. Like, yeah, you need to prove that it can pay a person consistently and a livable wage, and it should probably be you, because you are the one. You're probably the first person. You're the first staff member. You are the first hire. You are the coaching all the classes, doing all the things. So yeah, I think I haven't heard anyone put it like that, but I think that makes sense. Yeah, you should probably pay a person, and it should be you, a livable wage. And then if it starts to pay you a little more than that and you want to level up, yeah, then you can find someone else. So I think that makes sense, actually. The question I had was, and maybe I'm skipping ahead, but on the revenue page, it said, because I'm looking at this net owner benefit number on the page that talks about revenue. I think it said that most gyms are bringing in around $21,000 in revenue. Yeah, something like that on
12.
page
12,000, unless you're looking at something different.
Yeah, it's between 12 and 16. Yeah.
Sorry, 12,000. And then the expenses page, if you go to the expenses page on page 39, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Okay. Is that rent or that's? Okay, never mind.
Rent would make up the majority of that. So, I mean, what this really tells us, Teo, is that gym owners are making a little bit of money, but the landlords and the government are really, in many cases, making more. And that's something that always grated on me as a gym owner. Like, okay, I'm working Monday through Saturday, pretty much full time, and I don't make my first dollar to take home to my family until Thursday about 3 o'clock. And up to that point, I'm working for the landlord and the government. And so we can get into like, what is the remedy for that? How do we fix that? But that's just the hard reality of where most gyms are right now.
Sorry, yeah, but the revenue per month, the average was 12, and this one says total monthly expenses is like 15 in 2022, and then 19,000 in 2023. So the math just seems
Negative.
like people are negative money, negative money. So where is the net owner benefit coming out of to make the math work? Because everyone's losing a lot of money if you just look at those two numbers.
So if you look at revenue, there are different data sets that different things are pulled from. So the $12,000 average revenue comes from Watify. So of all the gyms in Watify's system, you average that out, it's 12,000. The expense, since your gym management system doesn't have your expenses, there's no way for us to pull that across the entire data set. That comes from the survey. And so as Chris said, the survey is going to bias more to Two Brain gyms because those are our more active and attentive audience. Those also tend to be larger and more successful gyms, as the data will show. So the average Two Brain gym revenue is much higher than 12,000. The median net owner benefit for a Two Brain gym is 4,700. So take this number, add 4,700, maybe subtract 500 for add backs, and that'll give you kind of the average for Two Brain. So you're looking somewhere in the 23 to 25,000 range. But if you were to kind of work backwards from that, you could say that the average gym in the Watify system is probably somewhere in the $9,000 to $10,000 a month expense range. So,
okay, I see.
Maybe a few grand left over, which is in line with
the other,
the average sales call I would take on a Two Brain front. It's a gym who, you're making one or two and you want to make 5 or 6 with the end goal of taking home 10 grand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because otherwise everyone's losing a lot of money every month.
Yeah. And some are, to be honest, like that, there's a reason that we're using median and mean averages in different spots, because there's this bipolarity, right? There's like the Two Brain gyms who are making lots of money and their owners are healthy. They're making a good income. Their families are fed. Their coaches are paid well. And then there are gyms completely at the other end of the spectrum who are either at break even or slowly losing money. And there's fewer and fewer gyms in the middle. Now, that middle is improving for sure, but the Two Brain gyms are pulling up the revenue average and also doing it with fewer expenses. So,
and one thing I think is important to bring up is when we're pulling from a specific data set, we'll call out most of the time where it came from. Because even though data is coming directly from gym management software providers, the way they track it is differently. And Teo can probably speak to this. How much time, Teo, did you spend trying to define what a member is? Like, explain to a gym owner how Watify and Team Up and Kilo may have asked for the same data, may come up with completely different numbers.
Well, yeah. I mean, I asked at the Two Brain Business Summit this past summer, I asked a bunch of people, can you tell me what a member is? I even asked Chris for a while, and I was bugging him as we were walking to dinner. But yeah, I think because it's tricky, because if you look at your member management system, there's a lot of baked in rules as to when someone gets that status, right? Oh, when they purchase a thing off of your membership CRM, that means they're a member. Or no, that's not when we log them as a member. We actually log them as a member when they purchase a recurring thing, right? The main example I kept running into was you have people who are, selling, let's say, personal training, right? Some gyms still sell these in packs of 10 or 20, right? It's not on a recurring model. It's not set to auto renew. It's like, oh, I'm going to sell you a 10 pack of PT. And then when you run out, you tell me, and then I'll charge you for the next pack, right? And a lot of automation systems, you'll have that pack expire and they'll actually get logged as an alumni if you don't catch it in time. Or let's say your 10th class is on a Friday. You look at your CRM, you say, oh, you just used your 10th class. I'm going to sign you up for another one. When do you want to come back in? Oh, I'm actually going out of town and do it next week. So you may have this 5-day gap where maybe they're supposed to be alumni according to the system, but you know in the back of your mind, they're actually still a member, right? So there are other systems that, visitor passes are actually being logged as memberships when they're not supposed to be, or vice versa, or not vice versa. But yeah, like, and the other thing that I kept running into was preliminary members. People sometimes will sign people up on longer kind of new member onboarding programs, or trial programs, I should say, trial programs. Are they a member or are they a trial? Are they a preliminary member or are they a real member? What's a real member? So that's the loop I kept getting caught in. And I think that's also why some of these member numbers are going to be, you have to take them with a grain of salt because everyone's defining it in a different way. Did that answer your question, John?
Yeah. And the same thing, like what's a lead? Is it an email? Is it an email phone
Yes.
number? If someone walks in off the street, buys a water bottle, is that a lead? And so a lot of these people are saying like, hey, a lot of the edge that, or a lot of the unique proposition, if you ask some of these companies, like why should someone buy your gym management software? It's like, oh, because we have the best data. But there aren't like these universally agreed upon definitions on the gym management level. There are not agreed upon definitions on how gym owners track. So it's kind of a moving target, right? So you take this number like push press gym averages 159 members, right? It's like we talked to Kale at Gym Launch. He said their internal set says it's somewhere around 115. We talked to Andrew Charlesworth. He said that like within the Midwest region, their data shows it's somewhere in the 120. And then we look at the Two Brain dashboard and that says something different. So there's always going to be a little bit of variance there. But in terms of, let's talk members, because that's also a heated thing and something that you find yourself defending a lot, Chris. If a gym has 150 members, they should just stop, right? That's all they should just close the doors and never sign up anybody else, right? That's the official stance of Two Brain.
Yeah, right. We teach a very rigid model where everybody has to have exactly 150 members and raise rates all the time. No. So basically, like, to Teo's question, when you get size, like a big amount of data, you lose focus, but you gain scope. And so while there are a million different nuances, what you'd hope in something this big is that like the averages are still valid because the data size is so big that you can have all of those little nuances and they'll balance out. So when we say 150 clients, there's a few reasons to do that. Number one, if you're not profitable at 150 clients, like your model's wrong. And a lot of people start off with no model. And so we want to give them sample models that they can follow that will really guide them to building a profitable business. So what we teach is like a very, very simple model to start off. With 150 clients, you can make $100K a year. You can have a full-time coach and another part-time, like half-time person doing admin or CSM or backup coaching or whatever. And then we say, look, there's even a few different ways this can work. You can do it with a class only model. You can do it with a class plus PT model. You can do it with a class plus PT plus nutrition model if you want to. And then we teach people how to use a P&L. And we start off with 150 clients and say, here you go. Here's how it works. And the bottom line is not to force gyms to adopt a 150 model. It's like, let's use this as a teaching tool so that you learn how to read a P&L and can build a business for the next 30 years because now you've got a system and a model that works. The other models that are out there of like have big group classes and discount rates and get as many people as you want, like all we know about them is that they don't work because the gyms fail. So our goal is this: get to 150 clients, have a good client value that pays you. And then if you want to go to 200, great, because now you're building on a working model. You're not just guessing. If you want to go to 300, great, because you're building on a working model. If you want to duplicate that model over and over and over, like is happening in Sweden right now, fantastic, because you've got a working model. And the model is, it's clear enough that anybody can follow it, but it's also flexible enough that you don't feel like you're putting on the handcuffs like a franchise.
So you're saying just make your, and again, we're talking mostly if your core service is large group. If your model doesn't work at 150 members, if you're not making your dream income at that 150 member mark, your model's broken, right? That's all you're trying to say there?
My guess is that you don't have a model. So, and I'm saying like you should be able to make 100K. That might not be your dream income for all time, but it's a good checkpoint. Like, okay, I've got 150 people and I'm just breaking even. Maybe let's fix your model before you start trying to get to 300 people. And, this is really prevalent in the CrossFit circles. So if you're not a CrossFit gym, like this might not apply to you. But years ago, somebody told CrossFit gym owners, his name was John Burge, and he ran this business consulting company called The Biz, that the best way for them to make money was to get like 300 clients and have them in like lockstep in these 300 or 30 person classes. Well, his background was karate, where that's possible because you don't have a lot of equipment and everybody can be synchronized and you're basically doing choreography. That's not what Greg did. Greg did small group. But unfortunately, a lot of people fell into that model and there's really no proven success rate in the gyms who have run this model, at least not over time. There are some gyms who, they were the first gym in Atlanta and it worked for a little while. And then the second gym opened up and whoa, now we're in this price war because we're selling the same thing. All we're saying is like, have a model. The 150 model is a good one to start if you don't know how to build a business model. Follow that, get profitable, get happy at 150, and then extend from there. The number 150 also has some really interesting like anthropological roots, where we naturally tend to congregate in groups of 150. Behavioral scientists will say that you can have about 150 meaningful relationships before you start to forget people's spouses' names and details about them. It's an easy, convenient, simple number. Start there. That's all.
So work backwards. If you got 150 members, you should be able to make $100,000. But if you want to go on to 1,500 from there, you're not going to get a nasty letter from Chris Cooper, correct?
No. And honestly, if you can do it with less, because I get the same amount of emails now from personal trainers and people who own semi-private and small group training saying, dude, I'm making 100K and I've got 79 members. Fantastic. Like, okay, good. Let's talk about the model that's going to be right for you. This is just a simple model that we gave as a sample to, groups and people who don't understand a P&L, don't understand what business modeling is, they're not going to understand like that we're giving a model as a sample. And so they're going to try to attack us on that model because they just don't understand math themselves.
So speaking of like the small group, semi-private kind of training models. And we made this point last year too, if I recall, but I think it's worth noting again. John, if you can jump to page 24 on this lovely state of the industry report, there's a metric on here that said the average attendance per class is, around 6.9. So it's a little bit higher, closer to 7 now, but as compared to last year, but you're essentially running small group right now. So if you're not charging it, if you're not charging for it, then I can see that's why you're still stuck in the grind. The model's not working because you're charging for a service that should be premium or more premium than you're charging for, right?
Yeah, so a lot of gyms get into trouble because they're charging based on the assumption that they're going to have 12 or 13 people in every single class. Well, that's not what gyms are getting. And, in 2010, this was the model that everybody was trying to chase. 20 or 12 years later, 13 years later, now we know that doesn't work. But there are still people who want you to think like that will work because it serves their ends or whatever. Here's the reality. Like if you measure retention rates or adherence rates or any of that, your best group size is 7 to 12 people. At 7 to 12 people, it's fun for the coach. It makes money for the gym. And your retention rate for clients is high. If you're running groups with 1 or 2 people in them, it's not fun. It doesn't pay you. And your retention sucks because people are like, man, what's going on here? And what you're effectively doing is doing like personal training for $12 or $13 an hour.
We had like a 5:30 class at our New York location that Teo has coached many a times, and it was always like the same two people because it's like the part where the gym was, it wasn't like a commuter town. And we started in our gym in New Jersey, like our 5:30 or 5 a.m. class was like the most popular class because everyone had to go 45 minutes into the city. And it's like, how many years did we run that class at like a loss before we're like, we should probably just not do this. Like, you know, this is not how math works. Like, and how long do we,
at least close to 2, definitely close. Cause it was there before I was coaching there, and then I was coaching there, that spot. Yeah. At least a year. So yeah, probably 2 years.
That's one of like the biggest epiphanies some gym owners have when they go into Two Brain. It's like will just their mentor will tell them to just like cut their underperforming classes, and just the act of doing that. One, like they're expecting like half their membership will leave, like 100% of the attendance of these classes will quit, which is never the case. And then two, by removing these classes, like if you're running it 5 times a week, that's 5 hours you just freed up. You just gave yourself a raise. So even if you do have 1 or 2 people leave, if you factor that into total income divided by time worked, like you're still making more money. So, you know, little hack there. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Go ahead.
No, you know where this compounds and really drives your gym downhill is you say, okay, I've got 2 people at 6 a.m. I can't afford to pay a coach to take that class. So I, the owner, have to take it. So what this means is that you're getting up maybe an hour earlier. You know, I get up early anyway, but instead of spending the first hour of your day when you're at your best working on things that will grow your business, instead, you're teaching this class and thinking about all the other stuff. So you're distracted. You're not running a great class anyway. You're tired and you're not growing your business. I mean, it's just the reason that people keep these classes is because they don't trust themselves to use that time for better purposes, or they don't know what to do at that time instead. And so they just keep showing up and running these classes, and it's a downhill slope.
So to drive this model point home, because we talk about it all the time on this podcast, just studying models that work in gym owners who are effectively scaling. Like if the data is showing push press saying 159 members, and we're saying that is more than you'd ever need to run a great gym, but our profitability data, which is self-reported on like, it probably skews high just based off of the people on the list, is like net owner benefits 3,800. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean most gyms are running a broken model?
It means that there's room for improvement. I mean, the thing about a model where you're an owner operator and you're breaking even is that you can do that for a long time. Gym owners work extremely hard and they're willing to martyr themselves for the cause. And, you know, while that appears admirable on the surface, long term, that's going to create a lot of problems for you and your family because time's non-renewable. You can't like make more time. So the key is that not only should you be making 100K a year, you should be making more than that so that you can put something away so that you're not coaching the 5 a.m. class for the rest of your life.
So does that mean everyone has to charge more? Does that mean?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah,
great.
Sorry.
Problem solved.
That's the bottom line, right? Is like if you're running big group classes and you're not charging a lot, then you're basically in a commodity price war race to the bottom. Because if you're in LA right now and you're charging even $129 a month for CrossFit or your boot camp or whatever, Nike's going to smoke you. Like they're coming in at $99 a month and the consumer can't tell the difference between your product and theirs. Nike's going to win, you know? And so like, this is the time when you really have to look at your model, understand what the numbers mean and make a plan going forward in the future. And like, you're almost out of time. So charge more.
It's funny you brought up the Nike thing because, you know, I talk about it a lot, and one of the most common things that I will hear gym owners say is like, well, their coaching is going to be really bad, which I think is so off base because like we hired, we had like a Nike master trainer on staff, right?
And she was the most popular coach.
She was awesome. And you need to remember that like, even if Nike, let's assume they pay less, which they won't, they're going to pay more. than the average on here, which is like in the, where are we? Yeah, the average CrossFit or strength and conditioning is between 25 and 27 bucks. Nike's going to pay more than that. And then you need to remember what it looks like if you want to climb the boutique ladder. Like, I don't know if this is true anymore, but in the city, like top end boutique coaches, if you're running like a Soul Cycle class or something like that, like they could make north of $200 an hour if they went up that chain. We had CrossFit coaches from our gym in New Jersey who would coach at like fancy boutique rowing gyms, make triple what they would make. You know, they didn't like doing it, but they would do that for the money. And you need to look from a resume standpoint, like what's going to, like, working for Nike or working for CrossFit Laughing Cow, which one's going to be more noticeable, which one's going to have more star power. Like there are other things that you want to take into consideration here, right? And especially in like LA, New York, where these studios are going to be, like, I think they're going to have some good looking and good coaches.
And just to reiterate the point you made earlier about the situation at Bowery, like, she may have had slightly less technical knowledge than some of our other coaches, and she was still the most popular coach because her classes were just so incredible and so fun and so energetic. And also, yeah, she was still just a great coach and like an amazing CrossFit athlete too. So, you know, you know more about posterior chain work than a Nike coach, but it's not gonna make a difference here. You're still gonna lose, I think.
We sponsor her visa. Like she qualified as like an exceptional person because of her work with Nike. Like it opens up, like that brand opens up doors. Isabel, love you. Hope you're doing well.
Shout out.
All right, Chris. So I brought up the slide on effective hourly rate. You're talking about like how canceling a class allows you to free up more time to work on the business, which has these downstream effects that are positive. Can you explain what effective hourly rate is and what a good one is if you are an average gym owner?
Yeah, so I opened a gym because I needed to make more money than I was as a personal trainer. And the mistake that I made was just thinking like, I can work harder as an owner because I'll have something to lose. And I did. But what quickly happened was like, I started trading more time for about the same amount of money. So effective hourly rate is really a measure of like, how good are you at being an owner instead of being a trainer? And it's what you do is you take like your net owner benefit, how much the gym pays you, and you divide it by the total number of hours that you're working. And that gives you your effective hourly rate. And then you use that to say, okay, here is where I am wasting time doing stuff that's not worth what I should be paid. So for example, if your effective hourly rate is $25, then any place in your business where you can pay somebody less than $25 to do a job, you should do that. Because what that's going to do is buy you back more time to do things like marketing, to improve your sales, to work with your mentor, to improve referrals, to improve retention, to et cetera. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do at that time, and that time will quickly fill, but not if you're mopping the floor every night. So in general, what we look for is this. We want your effective hourly rate to first be at least $25 an hour, more than you would make more as an owner than you would make coaching groups for somebody else. Okay. That's the first indication that you're going to be an okay owner. Eventually, we want your effective hourly rate to be higher than your personal training rate, because that tells you that your time is best spent as an owner instead of doing the personal training at your gym. And these are just signs that you're growing as an owner. You know, the first month that you own your gym, your effective hourly rate is going to be less than minimum wage. But over time, that effective hourly rate should be getting better and better, because that means you're getting better and better at owning a gym.
So it says here 1.7% of survey respondents listed EHR scores of 500 or more, and less than 1% entered 1,000 or more. So like,
yeah.
Does that mean there are gym owners making $1,000 an hour out there?
Yeah, so there are some gyms that have systemized to the point where the owner really doesn't have to be there, right? So I would be in that camp where with an hour or two of mentorship a month, my gym can run itself and pay me. And so that's where you get this high EHR. Now, what's really amazing, and I love so much about this industry, is that some owners, when they reach the point where they really don't have to be there at all, they will still choose to be there because they love their gym. And so they want to go in and coach at 6 a.m. and noon, or they want to take just this personal training client. They don't need to. They have the freedom of choice, but they do it anyway. For me, I love coaching people, but I love coaching people in business. And so my gym is going to run on its own with an hour or two of mentorship per month. I'm going to collect an income from that gym as the owner. I should. And I'm going to work where my passion is really biggest, which is Two Brain.
So you're talking about your gym, and you're one of the only people in the guru space. I know you don't like that word, but you're one of the only
business coaching space. Yeah.
gurus, business coaching people who actually still has a gym. And you're definitely the largest, you have the largest business coaching company by a magnitude over and whatever the next largest person who actually
it's like 10x
owns a gym. Why do you think that is? And like, has running your gym always been just like easy and taking an hour?
Yeah. No, I mean, so ironically, I think because of the data set that we have, of all the business coaches in this space, I think I could get away with not owning a gym. In fact, one of the mentors on our team, we have these scientific discussions all the time, and it's why I love them. They're so smart. But they made the argument that, Chris, as long as you own your gym, you'll always be viewing the data from 15,000 gyms through a lens of your own experience. And so you should probably get rid of your gym so that you have a completely objective view of what these other gyms are doing. And, we built Two Brain to not be determined by what my gym does. I don't want like an N=1 example informing everything that we tell every other gym owners. Like, I'm not trying to duplicate Catalyst with every gym that we work with. And so over time, what that's meant is like the first 10 gyms that I worked with, they eventually did better than Catalyst. And then the next 100 gyms did better than those 10. And the next 1,000 gyms did better than those 100. And they keep getting better. And so now Catalyst is the beneficiary of Two Brain, instead of Two Brain being like, well, here's what I did at Catalyst. And that's where, a lot of gym gurus in the space or whatever, they'll say, well, I did this differently. Let me tell you how to do it. And it's just like, you're supposed to be copying what they did. And they have this N=1 data set. We don't want that.
Which is fine if you want to do a craft coaching company. Or I think a lot of these guys go wrong and then turn around and bash Two Brain is that, when you're working with 1,000 gyms, you have to provide information that works everywhere.
Yeah,
not
that's
just
right.
your gym in Las Vegas or, people in tier 1 cities, or, it's just a lot more. The information has to work universally, where if you just want to say, here's what I do, and you want to try and get 100 other gyms to do the same thing, and it may or may not work. It's just a different game, right?
Personal values, I feel it's irresponsible to say, here's what I did at my gym. It worked. It's going to work for everybody. But that's just, I was brought up in a scientific home where it's like you have to know here's what's actually going to work before you share that with anybody else.
Recently, you released a video on the Two Brain YouTube where you talked about how your gym was actually struggling and doing a lot worse than the average Two Brain gym. And you talked about how you use some of this information to actually like turn it around. Can you talk us through that a little bit? How this guide was able to kind of be a North Star, and I know you hate that word. How that guide was able to? I hate that word too, so maybe we'll just remove it. How this guide helped you fix your gym?
Yeah. So what I did was, first I said, okay, when I was in this position in 2008, I didn't have any real data set. Like, everybody out there was guessing or exaggerating or sometimes lying. And it wasn't clear like where the truth was. So it was hard for me to get to bedrock, and I had to really reinvent a lot of stuff myself back then. It took me years to turn my gym around, and I blogged every single step. But this time going in, I said, okay, let's start from truth. What do we know to be true? Well, we know that like I need about 150 clients. Okay. I know that my ARM has to be around 205. Okay. I probably need about one full-time person and one half-time person, but I don't need 12 coaches. okay. And so what this did was it gave me numbers to start with. And so I looked at our P&L and I said, here's what I know works from Two Brain. These other things are question marks. I don't know if the kids program is really good for me. I don't know if the nutrition coaching is really helping me. Let's cut back just to the things that work and just do them well first. So that's what we did. And so we went through this audit and we said, okay, here's what we know is working well. We know I'm going to have some groups because I love them, but I know my group rate has to go up. So I'm going to change my group rate. Oh, hey, semi-private's working amazingly well. Let's introduce that and let's keep personal training because that's always been a good cornerstone of Catalyst. But let's get rid of trying to market to teams like hockey teams. Let's get rid of our kids program. Let's get rid of our nutrition program for now. Let's hold those things in abeyance and just focus on the things that we know work. So then I had the data set to show me where to start. The next thing that I did was go into the Two Brain materials and say, okay, look, hey, my coaches need clearer contracts. Well, here's, the contract template. Hey, I know I need to update this staff playbook. The last two GMs didn't do that. Okay, well, here's the playbook sample. And so once I had clarity, I could move really, really, really fast and do things in about 2.5, 3 months that had taken me 2.5, 3 years in the past. And so what happened was Catalyst was on a downhill slide, and I explained the reasons for that, and it's ultimately my fault, my responsibility that it got to that point. What I had to do to level it out, and then how I got the thing growing again. And honestly, we were able to turn it around within about 3 months. We've got an amazing staff. We're hiring again. We had 11 no sweat intros last week, and we've turned ads back on. We had shut them off. We're doing only what works, and we're practicing virtuosity, like just doing the basics really, really, really well right now. And, the gym is profitable again already. And more importantly, I love it again.
There might not be a big sample size for this, but for the gyms that have stood the test of time, who are like 10 years plus, who've been around for 10 years or more, is this a common thread you see? Like at a certain point, you kind of have to reinvent yourself. You have to go back to the basis. You have to shed the fat or whatever, and kind of reinvent yourself? Or for some of these gyms that have been around this long, is it like, the pizza restaurant that never changed its recipe, never changed a single thing about the inside? And that's the reason why they've been around for so long. They've just done the same thing over and over forever. And that's why it's so good.
Well, there's a balance there. So the core of what you do has to stay the same. But at the same time, you always have to be trying new things. The key, though, is that you've got this consistent core. So, several years ago, there was this New You challenge, right? And I did it, and a few hundred other gyms did it. I did it, and it was just kind of like the cherry on top of what we were already doing. We already had a good blog. We had an amazing email list. We had an amazing referral program. And so when New You brought us 30 clients the first time, it was like an amazing bonus. And when it brought us 12 clients the second time, it was a pretty cool bonus. And when it didn't work the third time, it was like, bummer, but it's not killing my business. Where gyms got into trouble using the same playbook was that they didn't have any consistency at the core. And so they were in trouble. They did New You, and hallelujah, we won the lottery. And the second time when it didn't work, it was like, oh crap. And the third time when it didn't work, it was like, we're in real trouble. And so the key is you have to know what's at your core and be consistent with those things. You have to be profitable with 150 clients and making good money. And that's your core. Keep doing those things. Do personal training, have a group program if you want to, or have another way to scale, like semi-private training. You have to have 1 or 2 core staff members, even if they're not full-time. You have to have a staff playbook that replaces you as the owner so the whole business doesn't rise and fall on your mood swings and your sore back, right? It's like you protect the core, you build the core, and then you're free to try this other stuff. And if some of it works and keeps working, you add it to the core. If something stops working over time, you remove it from the core. But you can't rely on the next thing to save your business all the time.
So someone's going to go through this guide. They're going to see all these different metrics. some people will be better in certain areas. Some people will be worse in certain areas. Like, how do you prioritize, right? Because I see a lot of stuff on the internet where like gurus and thought leaders will be like, all you need to do is just focus on retention and you'll be rich, because if the member never leaves, like you're just going to be rich. But like, part of me feels like that's hard to do and takes a very long time. Like, how do you triage if you're a broken gym, or you're a gym owner who's unhappy with where you currently are? Like, how do you know what to prioritize based off of this massive guide?
Well, the first thing you look at is where you're above average, right? And you can say, good. Like, take 60 seconds to celebrate that you're above average. Good. The next thing that you do is you find where you are drastically below average, and you fix that, because that will kill you. You know, for example, in fitness, hey, you got a 300-pound bench press, you know, you're in the top 10%, 10th percentile of everybody in the world who does bench press. Good for you. Unfortunately, you're 400 pounds, you had 3 Big Macs for breakfast, and, you know, it's your aerobic capacity that's going to kill you. You should
Your
probably...
calves are tiny
Yeah.
calves.
Hey, let's not get personal here, man. Like, obviously you're talking about me now. So, like, you better fix that, because it will kill you and it will limit your ability to have a bigger bench press later. Okay. So then you look at places where you fix those things first. Like, the thing that will kill you, you better fix that. That's urgent. Then next you look on this scale of like, where am I just slightly below average? Okay. And you work on that. And just like in fitness, it's like working on your weaknesses. You have to celebrate your strengths, but for you to take your strengths even further, you have to like improve your weaknesses, or at least the base. So I'll give you something that I learned when I was doing powerlifting. My squat was going up, my deadlift was going up, my bench press wasn't going up. Why? Your lats are weak, right? Louis Simmons told me that. He grabbed my lats and he's like, come on, that's not a lat that's going to allow your pecs to bench press 400 pounds. You have to build up that base before your strengths can even improve. So if you look at this guide and you're like, well, I got 300 members, like, I'm killing it. Right. But those members are paying you too little. And so you're still susceptible to, you know, you're fragile, right? You got a big bench press, but like, you're not going to walk up the stairs without having a heart attack. So you have to have like all 6 metrics that we track in this guide, not in balance, but in strength. You need to be good at all of them. Being good at one is necessary, but insufficient for success long-term.
And since some people are listening to this, they may not be able to see them. Like what you're saying is find out the area you're weakest in, focus on that first.
Yeah.
You wrote an entire book on this, right? So
Simple 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a listener, you want to learn what those are and a way to calculate what you're weakest in, read that book. If you DM me, I may be able to find a way to get one in your hands for free. So, so yeah, like, I think when I hear when I hear like, you need to improve your service, you need to have perfect service, you need to be excellent, operational excellence. It's like, of course, like, who's going to say no? Who's going to say that's a bad idea? It's just like, there are other things in play, right? Like, if you're not perfect operationally, but your leg is double average, like, there's probably other things that you can do that's going to move the needle faster, right?
Yeah. You know, it's, yes, you have to have an excellent service, but because you are passionate about your coaching and your coaches are passionate about your coaching, you're probably an 8 out of 10 coach. Okay. Even a 7 out of 10 coach. But if you're not profitable, then you're running like a 1 out of 10 business. And if you're not like, you know, paying people consistently well, or your ARM is too low, then you're running a 4 out of 10 business. I mean, it's just logical that you fix the thing that you're weakest at, especially if your coaching is already an 8 out of 10. It's going to take you 1,000 hours to get to a 9, where if you applied 10 hours to fixing your business, you're going to see massive gains. So, you know, return on the investment of your time is really what's important here. Where are you going to see the biggest progress in the shortest amount of time?
It's also one of those things where you might be too close to it, right? You may think like, I have invested a lot in coaching. I've invested a lot in my education as a coach and the education of my other coaches, and their classes are the best. I audit them and they're amazing. But if they really were, you'd see that reflected in other metrics. Like you'd have a ton of positive reviews. You'd have longer legs, right? You'd have these other kind of data points that would actually show you that what your claim is actually based on some kind of truth. And so, yeah, I would use this guide to take a step back and say, well, I think I have the most amazing coaches, the most amazing classes, but actually looking at some of these other data points, that may not be true. So that's one way I think you could use this guide. Another, switching gears, something that I was thinking about where you were saying there's other factors at play. I think John said that. On the marketing side, it looks like there's quite a big jump in terms of like cost per lead and cost per acquisition. Is this all just paid ads, or is some of this stuff like people are investing in cameras or editors for videos or social media content? Are those costs factored in here?
Most people would only factor in the cost of paid ads into that cost of acquisition. They might factor in the cost of software like a CRM. But the bottom line here is like, this is the time to get better at advertising, not to stop advertising. And, if you are good at referrals, for example, then a new client can turn into 2 new clients, and that halves your cost of client acquisition. If you have a really great social media presence, you have a warmer audience. And so your lead cost is going to go down. And if you have, really amazing lead nurture, for example, then you won't need as many people to click on the ad to get the same number of new clients every month. So it's an indicator, it's a signal, right? But it's not like, you need to stop advertising because it costs twice as much to get a client now.
And all those things are part of operational excellence. Like the way you framed it was great. I don't think I've ever heard you put it like that before, but yeah, like a lot of people think about the service and they're just like the coaching, right? The classes, the programming, but like answering the phone, nurturing leads, doing all those things are part of the service, and those need to be excellent as well. So yeah, to your point, you can have 10 out of 10 coaching, but if you're a 1 out of 10 business, you're still a 5.
The interesting thing about code, exactly. And like if you're a 5 out of 10 in ops, you're not going to make more money no matter how good of a coach you are. The interesting thing about being a coach is that the coach that's, a 6 out of 10 coach probably makes the same amount as a 9 out of 10 coach does anyway. The way that you make more money is by actually improving your business.
And one of the things that I hear peddle a lot is just like, do stuff your customers are going to love. Just do stuff that your customers are going to love. You're going to be successful, but there's balance there, right? Like you could take your prices, lower them to $1 a month. Your customers are going to love it.
Your customers
until
will love
you go out of business.
Yeah,
exactly. Until you go out of business, or you can't reserve a class time, right? You need to take that in balance, which is why I love the way you think about the service, like the actual delivery and then the operation and then the actual business itself. And you can give yourself a score that way. So that's cool.
They would love a free t-shirt every week. Every week they show up. Free t-shirt.
Sure. Yeah. But it is your responsibility. Like, just like your kids would love to eat Captain Crunch 3 meals a day, it's your responsibility as a leader to be successful and make the decisions that will ultimately be the best for everybody.
So, Chris, I know you got to go to the DMV.
Canadian DMV.
The Canadian DMV, which is going to tie you up for at least the next 3 to 4 days. We'll publish the podcast after that, so you're safely back. But in the interim, where do people go if they want to interact with you, Chris Cooper?
If they want to interact, gymownersunited.com. It's a free Facebook group that we started as the pandemic started to give people information that would help them survive lockdowns. But that group has really carried on because it's tactful, it's polite, and extremely helpful. So gymownersunited.com if you want to interact. If you want to get the free guide, you can go to twobrainbusiness.com/data, and you could just have it. I mean, we built this thing for you to have and to use. Go get it. And then if you're not sure what to do with the numbers or how to use this guide to make your business better, ask those questions at gymownersunited.com, and we're happy to help.
We're going to link to the guide down in the show notes as well. So you can just go on YouTube, get your copy there. I'll link out to the newsletter, and then we'll probably link out to a couple other podcasts, because by the time this has come out, you would have been on the Savan show for the big guide reveal. We're looking forward to watching that. Another friend of Kilo and Two Brain. So as always, this is great. This is really valuable, Chris, and I think people are going to get a lot out of it. Have a great time at the DMV.
Yeah, as long as he passes his test on the first try, okay.
All right, that's it for this week's Gym World Worldwide. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about Chris's calves.